Right, well, welcome to my video on the Rolex GMT Master 2 and the history of the GMT. Let's together sit back into our seats, fasten your seatbelt, put your tray into an upright position, because your pilot today is Captain Tony Hobbs of Pan Am Airlines. Gosh, I wasn't even born in 1954. And I have just written to Rolex and said, "Dear Rolex, I'm a captain of Pan Am and I need a watch that can tell me 2 time zones at the same time, so that when I fly between here and there, I can see GMT time, which of course is Greenwich Mean Time, and either my home time or my destination time." Rolex said, "Yeah, we can do that." And they did. Rolex existed in the 1930s. I think it was first formed in England, interestingly enough. Rolex was formed in England in around about 1919. and then the bloke buggered off to Switzerland. Better tax over there. So the very first GMT Master 2 was in 1954 and has what they call a Bakelite bezel. That's the bit that you rotate. But Rolex noticed after, or within 2 years, that it used to crack. And Rolex being Rolex, obviously that's just not Rolex. So they switched out the Bakelite bezel for an aluminium one, kept the same colours, red and blue. I'm just going to move the camera because I know you're not going to see me. Okay, so I think we were about here, weren't we? The reason why they used blue and red on the rotatable bezel was apparently because that's the corporate colours of Pan Am. Although when you look at the tail end of Pan Am, it's blue and white. But maybe they had some paperwork that was red and blue. The first GMT Master 2, going back that far, came out on a Jubilee bracelet, which my BLNR blue black Rolex is on. Ooh. You can now purchase the, well, if you can get hold of it, if you can get hold of it, you can now get the blue black GMT Master 2 and the blue red, which is this one, on Oyster or a Jubilee bracelet. I don't have access to historical footage, so I can only show you what I have, my watches, plus I'll drop in different footage while I'm talking here on my 2 on different bracelets here and elsewhere. Okay, well, we probably ought to say a little bit more about that early watch. It was a reference 6542. Damn, better change my pin number. It was a 38mm case, not the current 40mm. It was waterproof back then to 50 meters, not the current 100 meters. It was most famously worn by most appropriate for me, pussy galore. in the film Goldfinger in 1954. So if you watch Goldfinger, check out old Pussy and she'll have the GMT Master on her wrist, assumably on a Jubilee bracelet. The second generation of GMT Master came out, thank you, came out around about, Leslie's shaking, came out around about the 1960s. My dates might very well be out, and this was the reference 1675, and this one you could get it on an Oyster Jubilee leather strap, and of course it was still in the red and blue colours, but I think around about this they also brought it out in gold in this second generation as well. We then move into the 1980s. Let's go a little bit further up this valley. So we move on to the reference 16760, and the year is 1983, and this is the first year when they brought out the GM Master 2. The biggest advantage with the GMT Master 2 over the original version is that you can change the hour hand without affecting the seconds or the 24-hour hand. So you can unwind the crown to the second position, the first position being for winding it, to the second position, pull it out to second position, and from there the second hand will still turn, but the hour hand you can now move independently and set the hour hand to the time zone that you wish to travel to. And Rolex also, very fittingly for Lassie being in the water all the time, I'm not quite sure if you can see her there, but most appropriately for Lassie, they increased the water resistance to 100 meters. We're in London. What is the time in New York? So 5 hours behind is you turn the bezel clockwise 5 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now you can see that it's 3 o'clock in London, going by the standard hours. And you can now see that it's 10 o'clock in New York, so you know that your destination time right now is 10 o'clock, and you can do that without having to touch any dials or undo anything. Just simply rotate the bezel clockwise or anti-clockwise, and you have set your watch to the time zone where you're traveling. So I'll briefly show you how the quick set hour hand changes. If you undo the crown, when it pops out to the first position, that's where you can wind the watch up if necessary. If you carefully pull it out one spot, you notice that the second hand is still turning, but you can now change independently the hour hand. And this is what they managed to do with the GMT Master 2. When the Rolex GMT 2 was launched in 1983, from what I can tell, Rolex kept the GMT Master in production until 1999. Camp is not too far away now. We're slowly making our way further north. And 2005 saw the newest, biggest changes for that time to the GMT Master 2. The original one in 2005 was gold. They brought in a new parachrome hairspring, and they made the trip lock winding crown larger. The case became larger, the hands became larger and easier to read from 2005. So those poor pilots back in 1954, they probably had to get their binoculars out to be able to tell the time on it then. And it was also then around about this time, 2005, with that gold version, that Rolex brought out the first Cerachrome hardened bezel. And the Cerachrome bezel is supposed to be scratch proof and fade proof, which some people actually liked the older version with the aluminium bezel, because the colours, the red and the blue, or the black and red of the Coke, which they brought out at some point before that, the colours would fade. And that gave it like a, you know, a little bit of an antique feel, and I think there were many collectors that actually liked that fading of the colours. But that won't happen on the Cerachrome bezel now, which has been out since 2005. They also changed the bracelet to solid end links, and I believe this is around about the time that the bracelet itself was also upgraded. The next change comes in 2007. Let's head a little bit closer to camp for that. So 2006 saw Rolex bring out the black bezeled GMT Master 2, and 2007 they introduced the first steel 904 steel black bezeled GMT Master 2. And how they made the Cerachrome apparently is something like, the Cerachrome is a mixture of chrome and ceramic, and in the earlier versions from 2005 to 7, and I believe a few years after that, was just a black, because they couldn't make it in two colours. It was obviously too complicated to bake it however many Celsiuses they had to bake it at. They couldn't do the bezel in two colours initially. It took them a while to perfect that. So that's got us up to effectively now where the first two-toned GMT Master 2 was the blue black version. So it was in 2012 when Rolex first brought out the blue and black bezeled GMT Master 2. Now this one I got a year or two ago, and it's on the Jubilee bracelet. The original one of these that came out was on the Oyster bracelet. So now that I have the blue black on the Jubilee and the blue red on the Oyster, I can switch them around. So I will do that in this video if you hang around long enough, and you will be able to see them both on each bracelet. Okay, well, I've taken the bracelets off both of these watches with this tool here. I've got a video on YouTube on how to do this. Oyster bracelet, and that's the Jubilee. So when the first GMT Master came out in 1954, it had the Jubilee watch on it. When the first GMT Master 2 with two colours on the bezel came out, it was the blue and black version, and it came out on the Oyster bracelet. You will notice that obviously the spring bars are exactly the same. Interestingly, you see the length of the Oyster is a little bit longer than the length of the Jubilee, which is very strange because I've had two links from both removed. A little tip for you, if you've got this far in the video, is you want the crown up here to match up on the watch. and then just reverse both. So you can see that we've got it in, but it's not lined up exactly yet. And then just press it in. Now it's lined up. And given that we are outside, I don't want this pinging off somewhere into this grass. It's difficult enough finding them at home when they ping off at home. So line that one up. What I find is try and keep your fingers over the groove, so if anything does happen, it's not going to spring out now. Holding our breaths. Whew. There we go. On. That is the GMT Master 2 BLRO. Now, on the Oyster bracelet, we really did film this outside, no camera trickery here. So now we've done that one, Oyster bracelet on the GMT BLNR. So here we have the BLRO, which is Blue Rouge, French, on the Jubilee bracelet. And here we have the BLNR on the Oyster bracelet. But this is now, technically speaking, the same watch as in 2012. Well, almost, not quite. Because then, in 2018, Rolex discontinued the all black bezel and brought out this watch, effectively, which is the BLRO, blue and red, on a Jubilee bracelet and an updated movement with a 70-hour power reserve. And then in 2019, I believe, they discontinued the Oyster bracelet on the Batman and put the Batman on the Jubilee bracelet, and then they called it the Batgirl. So these now, it's a beautiful pair, isn't it? I always say you got a beautiful pair there. And then this year they reintroduced the Oyster bracelet on the blue black and the blue red, and luckily I was able to get it on the blue red. I've just switched bracelets on both of them. But for the purists out there, this is probably the correct bracelet per watch, and then it's up to you which one you prefer. I like them both ways. Maybe prefer the other way. If you prefer the other way. But the Pepsi, the blue red, originally came out on the Jubilee and was reintroduced in 2018 after several years away on the Jubilee. And the original blue black in 2012 was introduced on the Oyster. So now you can have your pick, if you're lucky enough to have either the blue black or the blue red on Jubilee or Oyster bracelet. I'm just going to show you how you find north using the watch. Now you can see the sun is pretty much right overhead. Right, so the hour hand is pointing roughly towards the sun. I mean, it's not an exact science. I don't think it's going to give you, you know, an exact north, but it certainly is going to be pointing you in the general right direction, bar a few degrees. But the sun is approximately at that plane through there. Now I must admit, if you factor in GMT time, it actually throws it out by a tiny bit. But like I say, it's not an exact science. But basically the hour hand is there pointing towards the sun, give or take a tiny bit, and then the 24-hour hand is pointing north. If you don't have a 24-hour hand, to be honest, it doesn't actually matter, because halfway between the hour hand and 12 o'clock noon, in this instance about the 2 o'clock position, would be south. So then you can draw an imaginary line directly across your watch, and then opposite south would be north. So that is just another function of this professional tool watch, as they say. Anyway, I hope you found this video reasonably useful and helpful. It's probably going to be quite a long video. It's quite convoluted story and everything, but I just wanted to do something just, you know, a little bit different to just an unboxing video on this watch. Anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification button. We do lots of camping and outdoor videos as well. And I will see you in the next one. Thanks again.